Welcome to another edition of Daily Airline News, focusing on the search for MH370. I'm Jeffrey Thomas, and delighted to say, joined by my co-host, Blaine Gibson. Good afternoon, Blaine.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too, and to be back talking about Malaysia 370.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so, Blaine, before we get going, a comment from your colleague and my colleague, Richard Godfrey, who's been asked about MH370, the search, what's going on. This was from RS Juliet Indigo 2 Uniform Indigo. What's happening about MH370? So, of course, Blaine, we're talking with you today, obviously, but Richard is also working on a new ACARS data for MH370. And very interestingly, he's working on a new project analyzing high resolution satellite imagery, which he now has access to. So some interesting things there that we'll bring you the details of in due course. But so Blaine, over to you.
Well, that's excellent, and I just want to say to the viewer, thank you for remembering MH370. We have not forgotten MH370, but I just want to say that to Jeffrey and Richard, I totally understand and want to commend your wonderful coverage of the Air India crash. This is urgent. This is happening now. The information needs to get out, and you have done an excellent job of presenting just the facts and not speculation. And I'd like to add just a personal note that I have been to Ahmedabad. I love India. I've been there many times. I have good friends in Ahmedabad, and the first time I heard about this crash and that it hit a building on the ground, I was worried and called their relative and found out that they were okay. They were not medical students. It's absolutely tragic what happened to all the passengers
Yeah.
and to those on the ground. And I really support your covering this so well at this time.
Thank you. And thank you very much indeed, Blaine. Richard's doing a phenomenal job analysing all of this, as he does with MH370 as well. So it's a
Yes.
great privilege to be working with someone like him, and of course yourself. So thank you for that. So there's quite a few questions for you, Blaine. So Icarus 370, important question for Blaine. Where do you think MH370 crash site is, and what evidence places it there? I know we've answered this before, but I think it's good to start off again with that sort of a question.
Well, very good question. Thank you, Icarus. I have always believed that 370 crashed in the University of Western Australia area, which is between 28.3 degrees south and 33.2 degrees south, because that is the drift analysis of Professor Pattiarachi that guided me in my search for floating 370 debris. So that area has been empirically tested and actually produced results. Now, it's a very large area and needs to be narrowed down. And when you narrow it down, you get to two, I think, primary locations. One is the original simulation that guided me, one particular spot at 32.5 degrees south, 96.5 degrees east at Broken Ridge. And the other one is Richard's Whisper spot, which uses much more evidence and technology to narrow down the crash site, which is also in the UWA area at about 29.1 degrees south, 99.9 degrees east. So I believe that 370 is in the UWA area, most likely at one of those two locations or somewhere in between.
Yeah, and we're
I would like
showing.
to add that, pardon?
So I was going to say, Blaine, we're showing the viewers now a screenshot of exactly where that area is. It's marked in yellow, and the whisper spot
Yes.
is up in the top right-hand corner. It's denoted in light blue, just so you know exactly where it is.
Yes, that whole area needs to be searched wider from the seventh arc, new areas. Most of that original location has not been searched, especially to
Mm.
the east, and most of Richard Godfrey's Whisper location has not been searched. So the area needs to be searched anyhow based on oceanography alone. And I really wish that the Whisper skeptics and critics would be less harsh and simply say, okay, whether we believe that Whisper works or not, the area needs to be searched anyhow.
Yeah.
So they should go ahead and search, and then we'll see who's right. So I fully support searching both those locations in the UWA area. That's where I think MH370 crashed.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt, and there's some things that we know, you and I and Richard know that are confidential at this stage about the work being done by other people related to Whisper, which really reinforce the fact that it is absolutely accurate. So there's a very high level of confidence that Whisper is going to be the location, and hopefully, when Ocean Infinity resume their search in November, that they will go straight to that area and not and search there. And that's a question from me to you, Blaine. Any feedback from the families about anything that Ocean Infinity has said to them or anything like that?
Nothing new. Ocean Infinity is not making public statements, and
Mm,
I think that is fully understandable. I
mm,
support that because the atmosphere in the 370 community and
mm,
media is so toxic and hostile. There is so much rivalry among the different experts who have their different pet locations and pet theories. And then,
mm,
of course, first of all, are the interests that don't want 370 found at all.
mm.
They would be making a media circus and vicious attacks. And I understand Ocean Infinity choosing to remain silent on where exactly it's going to search and when.
Yeah, I agree. I met I I met Oliver Plunkett in London in 2022 at the Farnborough Air Show when I was there, and it was quite clear to me that they'd had some very bad experiences with the Australian media in particular, and that had really coloured their, understandably, absolutely understandably, they had become very reluctant to deal with the media, and I get that, and they're focused very much on finding it and not talking about it. You know, let their actions do the talking. But listen, Bill Tracy, 8774 says, Blaine has done more than almost anyone to help solve MH370. It is controversial because Blaine's and Shari's work tends to suggest a Broken Ridge crash site. Broken Ridge is a sensitive topic. I don't quite know why he suggests that, but perhaps you can talk to that, Blaine.
I know Bill, and I know exactly why he suggests that, and he is correct. Broken Ridge is sensitive for two reasons. One is Broken Ridge in the UW area is what guided me in finding some pieces of the plane.
Mm,
And the people who do not want the plane found are not happy that I and others found and reported those pieces of the plane.
mm,
So it's very interesting that whenever you say that the plane crashed at Broken Ridge or near there, the trolls come out of the woodwork attacking
yeah,
viciously.
yeah.
It's
Yep.
almost like the bell and Pavlov's dog. It's like some sort of key word that calls all the trolls to
Mm.
attack searching at Broken Ridge. And
Yep.
I have never seen that as much to that extent
Mm.
for any other area. The second reason that Broken Ridge is controversial is that some people think that whoever was flying the plane took it and crashed it at a place that is difficult to search,
Mm.
and that would be Broken Ridge.
Mm.
Uh, I tend to question whether anyone would consult bathymetric maps and try to target a certain area. However, it has sort of become knee-jerk controversial for that reason.
Yep.
And however, there are other reasons that it could be at Broken Ridge. And in the UWA area is
Yep.
simply that is the drift analysis that accurately predicted where and when debris would arrive.
Sure.
And the ocean does not make any judgment based upon where the seventh arc is, or what the terrain is like underneath, or what the intentions were of anyone flying the plane. The oceanography is completely neutral on that.
Mm.
And
Mm.
interestingly enough, I can give you a third reason that the plane may be at Broken Ridge, and that is simple Murphy's Law. One 370 family member, in fact, said that so many things have gone wrong for all of us with Malaysia 370 that Murphy's Law would put the plane around Broken Ridge.
Mm.
Maybe. And finally, I'd add to all that the fact that some groups, some interests are very intensely against a search in the UWA area and Broken Ridge. I'll leave it at that.
Yep. So 1989 he wants to know your thoughts, Blaine, what the co-pilot was doing on the plane. Do you think he was aware of what was going on? And the other question he asks is the debris that was found, is it true that barnacles on the debris could be a clue of where the plane is?
Well, starting with the co-pilot, uh, the question seems to assume that the majority view in this group that says that the captain took the plane is correct. So they're wondering what the co-pilot is doing. Well, I've already said, and Richard said, that in terms of your survey, my answer was not that it was a deliberate homicide, suicide by the captain, premeditated. My answer was that it was none of the above or a combination thereof that the experts missed. So I don't know what happened, and we need to find the plane to know. However, regarding the co-pilot, in that scenario, that was the majority scenario in the survey here, it's clear that, of course, the co-pilot would know what was going on at first, and that he would try to re-enter the cockpit. And that would be no matter who was flying the plane. And I've seen some speculation. We do know that his cell phone pinged the tower at Penang. I've seen some speculation that he may have actually gone and held the phone next to the glass window to try to get a better signal, but that is just speculation. So
Mm.
really, we don't know.
No.
But I have found nothing about the co-pilot that would point any fingers of suspicion towards him.
Yep. Yep.
And I would like to add one thing that I can reveal here, that have not before is that I spoke with someone who flew very often with Captain Shaw on his flight crew. And she said that he actually, as a practice, before Malaysia and other countries adopted the two-person in the cockpit rule, that he, as a practice, implemented it on his flights, and that he would ask her or another crew member to come into the cockpit if he or the co-pilot were taking a break.
Mm.
She told me that. So
Mm.
I just add that here. Moving on to the second question about barnacles. There have been a lot of analysis done on the barnacles that support the search area, and some that people argue do not support the search area. The truth is that, unfortunately, the barnacles say very little about where MH370 crashed or the route that it took. The Lepisonotifera are very widespread. They can attach anywhere. They can fall off anywhere. They can grow at different rates depending on their exposure to the water. It's very hard to tell. So the expert oceanographers and marine biologists I have spoken with don't think the barnacles tell us very much at all. Now, the problem is that in the 370 community, where everybody has their own little pet location and pet theory, they claim that the barnacles say whatever they want the barnacles to say. One is claiming it means that the debris was not in the water and the plane is in Kazakhstan. One is claiming that it's in the south coast of Java, where there was an earthquake that he claims was the sound. I think that the plane crashed around Broken Ridge, but you would never hear me claim that the barnacles say that the plane crashed at Broken Ridge. It could have, but that's based on drift analysis, not barnacles. So I had a lot of hope when barnacles were found on the flaperon, and when I found the monitor case that had barnacles on it, they might tell us something about where MH370 crashed, but unfortunately, no.
Okay. So Teresa Corrigan 3076, wow. How do you find something that small and recognize it as important? And then she also adds, I honestly never knew those currents existed. That's an interesting statement.
And they're both very good statements.
Yeah.
And the reason is, for one thing, I've found some very small pieces because I know what to look for. But most of the pieces have been found by local people because I and the 370 families made them aware to be on the lookout for debris, and because I showed them what to look for.
Yeah.
And I saw that question, and that was pertaining to the last two pieces of debris, especially the one that could possibly be from the monument wall or cockpit door. It's the gray. It was small. It was different. And the woman Moss knew what to look for because we had put the word out, and she brought them to me. And she's done a great service. And all the people of Madagascar have done a great service to the families. They have no interest in the government or things like that. They don't trust the officials and the police. They're doing it because the families inspired them to do it.
And the
And there
currents,
was a second,
yeah,
and the
current,
currents, yes.
the one on the currents, Blaine, and it's really interesting because not only, and we're showing the current map again, just for the viewers to sort of have a look at it. But as you know, not only are there surface currents, there's undersea currents, there's currents along the bottom, and some of the currents on the surface then sink and then go back the other way underneath. It's a really very dynamic thing, the ocean, isn't it?
Yes, but the undersea currents are minimal, and the heavy
Sure.
debris probably sunk pretty much straight down from the crash site and is resting calmly on the seafloor,
Mm,
waiting to be found.
mm,
The surface currents, you know, I thought there'd be debris on the west coast of Australia.
yeah.
And I looked at,
Mm,
and there's a guy named John Goldsmith who has looked there a
yep.
million times more than I have, very meticulously.
Mm,
And Professor Patiarachi explained to me that the reason the coast of West Australia is clean is that the Lewin current keeps it clean.
mm,
And the counterclockwise currents that go from the crash site go north. They don't go east to Australia across the Lewin current. They go north and then west and then impact Madagascar, southern Africa. The debris will go south of Madagascar, north of Madagascar, Mozambique Channel,
yep.
South Africa. That's the way the currents go.
Yep.
And it's very important to know them, because if 370 had crashed further south, like around 38, 39, 40, where some people still claim it did, the debris would have gone east and gone washed ashore on the south coast of Australia, Tasmania, and also it would not have arrived as early as it did in the Mascarenes,
Mm,
southern Africa.
sure. So on the subject of currents and debris, Bill Keaveney, 1526, says if you have lots of debris, it can't be intact.
That's right. And that is a very obvious statement, but it astounds me as to how many experts completely ignore that and claim that the plane is intact underwater, even though we've found now about 48 pieces of it. That, by
Mm.
definition, means it is not intact. So your observation is very good, and I hope that some of the experts who continue to proclaim that the plane is intact underwater are listening to the obvious.
Of course, we're still going to find some major pieces of structure, like
Yes,
the undercarriage, which is titanium, and you've got possibly the wing box is a very, very robust piece of
sure.
thing, and large sections of wing, possibly the engines themselves, the core of the engines. So there's going to be quite a bit of structure for Ocean Infinity to find. But
Yes,
yes, it's going to, the debris that you have found and others have found reinforces that it was a very powerful impact on the ocean, whether it was controlled or not controlled, regardless of any of those dynamics. It was a major impact on the ocean. We know, for instance, that the swell at the time was about 3, possibly 4 meters in because there was a cold front going through. So it was no way in the world was it a miracle on the Hudson.
that's right. And of course, I'd add to that list the landing gear. And there is one more thing I would like to say that is important, is that the underwater search companies need to know what to be looking for. They are not looking for an intact aircraft. They'd pretty easily see it if it were, but they're not looking for that. They're looking for a debris field of small shattered debris and maybe a few big pieces. And they're also looking for one or two small pieces of debris that could lead them to that debris field.
Mm,
And
mm,
the other thing that's important about it is that I've seen some people claiming that with the 2030 seabed mapping project, that 370 is going to be found anyhow. No, it's not.
mm,
370 according to David Mearns and everyone I've talked to be found, you have to be looking for it. It's not going to be found by accident. The seabed mapping, the bathymetric scans, are not high resolution. They're general mapping of geological features. The original Fugro bathymetric scan, mapping of the search area, did not find Malaysia 370, nor was it intended to. A regular mapping project is not going to find the plane. To find the plane, we need to look for it, and we need to look for it in the right place.
So Nomac N6E says it must be exciting to find debris. I think it'd be thrilling. Has every island been searched? Well, we know the answer to that, Blaine, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Not every island has been searched. There are a lot of islands and sandbanks that I did not go to and that have not been searched. Mauritius has been very dutiful in putting out notices to the Coast Guard to be on the lookout, and they even made a trip to check out something in Saint-Brandon. So not everywhere has been searched. And if I go back and search and ask local people, I'd concentrate on some of those outer islands and atolls in Mauritius buried in sand. I'd concentrate in northeast Madagascar and the Mozambique Channel, northeast Mozambique and South Africa. Whether they're islands or mainland, I'd be looking at them.
So Blaine, Mr. Jonathan 50, the brown material looks like phenolic filler, often used as a filler in composite structures, most probably from an aircraft, also used in marine applications.
Yes, and thank you very much for that observation. I noticed that. I think you are right. I am convinced that piece is from the plane. I just needed to get some confirmation that this filler, rather than hexagonal honeycomb, is used on the Boeing 777s. And I thank you very much for that. I believe that is from the plane, not a boat, because of when it washed ashore and what it looks like and how it feels. And thank you so much for your contribution. That's exactly why I put these photos out here.
So Lee Newcomb, 85, do you think certain people in Malaysia don't want it found because there was some suspicious items on the plane? Thank you both for your hard work.
I believe that is possible. I would not count it out. I have always known that there is a group of interests and people in Malaysia who do not want the plane found at all. That could be one of the reasons. It is possible that something in the cargo was not as listed. I could not say that it is, or could not say that I think that it is, but I would be open to that possibility. And you may notice that I often say we need to find the remains of the aircraft wreckage and cargo to know. So I keep an open mind on that.
So Free Ranger CT 110. My question to Blaine, once MH370 is found and the truth revealed, would you consider joining forces with Richard in the pursuit of Amelia Earhart? Thank you all for giving up your valuable time and expertise and creating and participating in these videos.
Well, thank you for so much for your support. You've been very supportive and helpful, and the answer to that is an emphatic yes. I would like to add a personal note that Amelia Earhart was my mother's hero. My mother was one of the first women to attend and graduate from Stanford Law School. To her, Amelia Earhart was a tremendous inspiration as to what women could do. I know that she was to that entire generation of women pioneers in all professions. And I think that one of the things that inspired me to be so interested in Malaysia 370 was having heard my mother talk about Amelia Earhart. So,
Mm.
absolutely, once we have found MH370, let's go find Amelia. I'm ready to work with Richard and others searching for her to find her and bring her home.
Interesting, talking of Amelia Earhart, and I'll see if I can find the photograph of the atoll where they believe she crashed. Um, I was on a delivery flight with Qantas flying from Honolulu down to Sydney, and the captain, there's only a few of us on board, and the captain said we're flying over this particular atoll, and he did a couple of circuits over it so we could photograph it and have a look at it. And it really gave us a funny feeling, thinking that down there possibly was Amelia Earhart's plane, and herself and the co-pilot
Yes,
Guy Disharati 9560. I'm guessing the plane is in 100,000 pieces and will never be found. Well, I don't agree with that, but it certainly is in a lot of pieces.
I'm guessing that the plane is in tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 pieces, but that it will be found.
Hmm.
As I said, the technology is so great that all they need to do is search in the right place and find one piece of aircraft wreckage that leads them to the main debris field, that even if it is shattered in 100,000 pieces, they will be able to spot it and recover the key pieces.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And on that subject, I have seen photos of crashes where the aircraft was in 100,000, possibly 200,000 pieces. And the one that comes to mind is the DC-10 that crashed, the Turkish DC-10 that crashed out of Paris in 1974. The plane completely shattered. But one of the things that was interesting from a wreckage point of view was that the undercarriage and the engines were still pretty much intact. So they're the sorts of pieces that we will find, um, I believe. So Jeff Medlock,
Yes, I agree.
2780. So Blaine, Jeff Medlock, 2782. If the new search finds the aircraft, will the black boxes be salvageable? It must be directly west of Perth. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jeff, thank you for the question, and I agree with you. It is directly west of Perth, about 1,000 miles west of Perth. And regarding the black boxes, I am confident that once the wreckage is found, the black boxes can be recovered. The deepest recovery of a black box ever was from the Helderberg, and that was at 4,900 meters deep off the coast of Mauritius back in 1988. And once the black boxes are recovered, I believe that if the seal was not broken at impact, that the data will be recoverable. I've heard that the data can be good for up to 10, 11, 12 years. And I believe and hope that the data will be recoverable, and especially the flight data recorder would be the holy grail. That would give so many answers that we need. The cockpit voice recorder too, but the flight data recorder is the holy grail.
For those viewers who don't know, the Heidelberg was a South African Airways Boeing 747-200 Combi. And a Combi is a 747 that has passengers as well as cargo on the main deck. and there was an in-flight fire which was flying between Hong Kong and Johannesburg, and there was an in-flight fire, and the aircraft was lost with all passengers. Now, thank you very much indeed, Blaine. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and you'll be back in a couple of days' time, correct?
Thank you, Jeffrey. And yes, I will. I'm not going anywhere. Well, I'm moving locations. I'll probably be in a different setting,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm still dedicated to 370.
And now, viewers, also, we did say that Richard was taking a day off. Well, he's not because there's some new news. And so we will be doing an episode later on tonight or today, wherever you happen to be in the world, on the Air India crash. And the episode is going to be called Eyewitness, and it'll be published approximately 4 to 5 hours after this episode with BLAINE on the 370 crash goes up. So be watching out for that as well, about 4 hours or so after this episode that you're viewing right now. So viewers, thank you very much indeed for supporting us. Please subscribe to us. Please like us. Please keep those comments coming. We really do appreciate them most sincerely. And please keep those tremendous questions coming too, because they really prod us to search out answers for you. And it's great to engage with you. Is it not, Blaine?
Yes, it is. Brilliant questions, and there are some that we didn't get to, and let's get to them later.
We'll get to them on the next episode, just in a few days' time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.